You're not allowed to be behind the scenes on Channel 9. So who are you, anyway? You're the visitor, right? We're actually in Amanda Silver's office. Hi, Amanda.
I'm just tagging along. I'm seeing what Scoble's up to. So, I come to see the good stuff.
But who are you, really?
Mick Stanic from Australia. Up in Redmond at the moment for Search Champs and hanging out with Robert. So.
Yep, and so you do the podcast network,
yeah. So I run the podcast network with Cameron Riley out of Australia. So putting together tech shows, lifestyle shows, music shows. Yeah. You listen to them, don't you?
Oh yeah.
We've had Robert on G'day World. That was the first one. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, and jump in anytime with some questions.
And watch this cool VB stuff. This is going to be cool.
so what we're really here for is not to see Mick. Although I got to ask for some travel budget to go to Australia and go, hang out in Sydney with you. So you're Amanda Silver. You've been on Channel 9 before.
Yes,
and,
I have.
And you're on the VB team, right?
I am.
Visual Basic.
Yep.
Team?
And I'm a program manager, and I work on the compiler and language.
Oh wow. And what we originally planned for was to do a thing about your tech ed talk, right?
But I had so many meetings and so many things.
You're hard to get hold of, and so am I.
I'm so busy, and you are so busy.
Yeah.
So, together.
Well, in the meantime, Tech Ed sold out, right?
I know.
So you can't even get tickets to Tech Ed.
I know.
But there's going to be a lot of people coming, and you're speaking at Tech Ed, right?
I will be speaking at Tech Ed, yeah.
And what are you going to be speaking on?
Well, mainly I'm going to be... The title of the talk is Advanced Language and IDE Features.
Wow.
But I'll be talking mainly about how Visual Basic is now a great language to author your app framework in. Right. So just how you'd be able to build an end-to-end, enterprise-level application, especially an LOB application, and plug into the base infrastructure so that you can extend the programmatic model to make that line of business app that much easier to write.
Right. Now, in the hallways here at Microsoft, I hear the term Mort all the time.
Yeah.
What is that?
I'm not a huge fan of Mort.
Either am I. But
well, I think it's been both good and bad because I think that it's promoted the concept that not all programmers are programming wonks and want to be,
bit twiddlers.
Yeah, exactly.
Hardcore down in
a
the
lot
kernel.
of them are really task focused and learn as they go and try to figure things out as they go. But I think that part of the problem is that people think that all Morts are VB programmers and all VB programmers are Morts, and that's absolutely not true. And so, it's been a little bit. We built up a little bit of a box, and then we boxed ourselves in, and that's.
Right. So they give personas is where that came from. So
yeah,
Alan
exactly.
Cooper, which book was that? The inmates are in charge of the asylum, or one of Alan Cooper's books. He recommended thinking of personas of your customers as personas, so that you could get into a better mindset for designing the product.
It's certainly the case that we always try to have our customer in the forefront of our minds when we're designing our products, and the thing that helps us to do that is to meet with customers. So to me, it's much better if I'm thinking of customer X or customer Y that I met with last week, or people who I've worked with in migrating their VB6 applications, or people who I've interacted with on the news groups. It's better for me to be thinking about them instead of this Mort concept who people have a tendency to attribute characteristics to that oftentimes aren't true, and we end up doing the wrong thing.
So when are you going to kill the Mort? You're in charge here.
Well, Mort in French means dead, right?
Yeah.
So I guess
we got to come up with a better persona for VB,
Yeah, I think,
particularly since you were just telling me about some of the stuff you're thinking about for the future, and
right.
We can't have no Morts using that stuff.
I'm really excited about what I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
So I have no fear about VB's future at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So you told me you were working on some demos?
Yeah, so I'm working on a demo, but it's not exactly, in demo format. So I don't have great flow, and I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to show you, but basically I've been working on this line of business app
What's a line of business app?
Well, I mean, I think that we use the term line of business app often because it doesn't it's not specific to a particular technology, as in, you know, it has to be a web application or it has to be a client application. But I think the thought that it's a data-driven application is basically what a line of business app, how we use it.
Okay.
So first of all, I just hit F5 here.
Okay.
And you'll see that I have a login screen. And actually this login screen right here is a new item template that exists so that I can go to the project and I can say add new item. And one of the items can be this login itself. And it'll plug into a lot of the existing app framework stuff that exists in the application class. Yeah. So I'm just going to log in. I'm going to log in as somebody else. Hope I got the right password there. Let's skip that. And you'll see that this is brought up. And one of the things that you'll notice in this application is that I have kind of like a big wrapper screen, and then I have an individual form that exists inside of it.
Yep.
And that's kind of similar to what we were trying to emulate when we were putting this together, was kind of like a single instance application. So kind of like Excel, where you have one instance of Excel open and you have, you know, multiple Excel documents open within the same shell.
Right.
So in this case, what we were trying to emulate in trying to act like our customers so that we understand what they need to build was a CRM system for a hotel chain. Okay. So basically, like, how can we take tasks that you need to do in a hotel and manage them efficiently, and then associate all of the tasks and requests that come in from a particular customer and link them to that customer's history, so that when the customer comes back to the hotel, that all of that information is logged, and that they get the mattress that they want, and they get the, you know, pillows fluffed the way that they like them to be fluffed.
No, I noticed you're not using all the new sexy Avalon stuff yet, right?
No, not yet.
Is that version 2?
Not yet. For Tech Ed, I'll certainly be doing, I'll be using WinForms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. But anyways, let's go into some of the code. So, well, one of the things that you'll notice here is that I have all of these forms that are logged, that are dragged onto the form here, all of these, controls, and all of them are already bound to a particular, in this case, a task, which is done via our object binding stuff. So I just shut down the app real quick. Okay. But you'll see that I have this main form. It's coming up.
Yep.
Actually, what I need is the task view. So let's see, where did I put that? Task view, view designer. So this is the individual task view, and you can see that each one of these controls here, when I select a control,
yep.
It has, okay. Then if I go down into the combo box, and if I go into the data information, you'll see that I can bind the data source to a data source that exists in the project.
Right.
So I can select, you know, any one of these fields that exist in the project, yep, using our object binding.
Okay.
So this is a lot of the data features that you'll see some other people talk about, but
right,
what I'm going to talk about is more of kind of the VB-centric app authoring. So one of the things that I did, and one of the things that I really want to talk about at our Tech Ed at my Tech Ed presentation, is how we can use VB and some of the new features in VB to extend it, so that I can basically, as an architect, for example, say this is how my app's going to work. And when developers work on, you know, smaller forms that exist within the app, they get a lot of the same. They get some of the same programmatic access.
Right.
So you'll see here that I have this custom user class that I created, and this is really, really an easy, simple, tiny little class. And what it does is it extends the namespace my, so everybody's familiar with the my namespace at this point.
Yep.
And if they're not, you should attend Stephen Lee's beginning VB talk at TechEd. But for my talk, I'm assuming that you're familiar with my and that you kind of have the understanding that as far as VB is concerned, that's the great entry point to get into what's available in your application.
Right.
And what I'm going to do here is to create my own module. And we all know that when modules are created in VB, that the members of the module are promoted to the higher namespace. So I don't need to mention the name of the module to access, in this case, the property user. So what I'm doing here, so everybody who's seen my has seen that it has, that I can basically type, in code, my.user and get things off of user, right?
Right.
In this case, I don't know why that's taking so long. It's the first time to bring IntelliSense up this time. In this case, I'm trying to basically override what my.user provides by default, because currently what my.user returns is something that's an iPrincipal. So it has basically, let's see, let's bring up a completely new WinForms app. Or just any app will have this. This takes a little bit.
You need to ask your boss for more RAM.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, this is kind of an old machine. This is, that machine I think I got when I really first started here, like, over 4 years ago.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I can type my.user in this case, and you'll see that it basically inherits from, or it implements both iPrincipal and iIdentity. So it gets a name, and it is in roles, so that I can do roles-based UI and roles-based authentication and things like that, and it is authenticated. In my case, what I want to do is, I don't want it to just return that interface, because I have some extra information for my employees. So basically, the idea with this app is that I'm not using NT authentication to set the current user. I'm going to override what my.user returns, so that it returns my particular employee class. And that employee class is defined in the business objects. So I can go view the code here. And this is just a business object. It's, nothing special. But you'll notice that it implements iIdentity and iPrincipal, so that it looks and feels like what my.user returns, but it has a few extra properties. And it gets, the strong typed behavior of my.user. So then I go back to, where was I? I was in the task view? No. I was in custom user. That's right. So you'll see that what I'm doing here is I'm creating a module that exists on my, and I'm going to replace what my returns for my.user. And how do I do this? Right? Because by default, the my.user code exists in a template that's generated at compile time when the program is compiled. So what I'm doing here is, let's go to the project, let me show you that again. Let's go to the project properties. So I'm going to the project properties, and this is going to bring up our fabulous new application designer, which is your one-stop shop for application, settings, references, resources, everything. In this case, I have some custom compiler constants. Now I don't need all of these custom constants to. This is a preliminary version. Actually, this version that I'm using was built on something that was prior to Beta 2. So in Beta 2, I don't need all of these. All I'd need to say is that for my user, which is at the end here, I think, I'm going to do a custom. So that basically means that if I say my.user custom, don't generate anything for me for my.user. I'm going to take care of that. So that's what I'm doing here. Now that works great for this particular application, right? And that means that basically for this application, whenever I type my.user, I'm going to get this employee class. But as the application architect who's going to be creating this as a kind of template for all of my developers to use, I want to make sure that all of them get the same employee and that they all get this strong typed access to the employee instead of getting the iPrincipal stuff. So how do I do that? Well, so currently what I do is I basically created a project template before I created all of these subforms that has the custom user class in it. And I could have and basically what this is doing is there's no logic in here. This is just saying, okay, when I call my.user, return an employee. And in this case, I'm always going to be calling a shared member on the employee class so that the employee class itself manages what the default employee is. So whenever, when we go back to the login, you can see that, well, basically this is based on the idea that there are a lot of applications that exist that are kind of kiosk applications. So you can imagine that, like at a hotel front desk, for example, that there are 6 guys at the front desk and they all have their little card keys on them, and they just walk up to a kiosk and they slide themselves in, and they don't want to log out and log back in and restart the app and have to log back in. So they don't want to use NT authentication. You want to use your own custom authentication. But with that, I want the actual employee that's logged in, so that when I log the events that happen when they go back to the database, I want to know, which employee was logged into the application at that time, anyways, so in the login screen, what I'm doing here is I'm just setting the current employee, which is the shared property on the employee, to the employee business object that I get back from the business layer that I have in this application.
Right.
So that's kind of that. That's
that's your line of business app.
That's kind of one portion of the line of business app.
Yeah.
But then within a lot of the forms and controls that I created, it's now really, really easy for me to key off of, in this case, I'm just going to, this isn't really the appropriate place to do this, but I'm going to type my.user, and you'll see that it has all of the members that exist on the employee type, not just all of the members that exist on iPrincipal and iIdentity, so that I can say, okay, well, I can basically access the photo on the employee type here if I need to. I can access the name, and so I can basically populate some of the UI based on the employee, and I can also check to see what the roles of that employee are,
right.
So that I can do roles-based UI. So that if I want to make like let's say I don't want certain things to be overridden by the employees themselves. I only want them to be touched by managers.
Yeah.
Then I can basically make that UI not enabled,
yeah.
Depending on the employee who's logged in.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So hopefully at TechEd this will be much more of kind of a demo rather than me showing you, what I have.
Well, you have a month left to get it straight.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time.
Add some flashy graphics.
Yeah, exactly. The graphics aren't exactly flashy. But I'm not moving to Avalon.
Oh, you should though. Go see Pablo, man. He has the best demos.
Yeah?
The bar for demos is definitely going up because of that team. But,
that's true.
Well, thanks for showing us this. Is there anything else, any other things that we should know about Beta 2? Because we spent some time...
Oh! Well, I mean, did you at the point that this video goes on, this will all be public, but
right.
We today just had a chat with our MVP customers and our SDR customers about the refactor ! Tool. So Jay Schmelzer and Mark Miller from DevExpress, I think he's from, will be talking about the refactor tool, which is just, it's just
what
awesome.
What does that do?
It's so awesome. It basically does refactoring. So what's a good example of refactoring, right? Yep. Well, my favorite example of refactoring is when you have a method and you have 3 parameters on the method, and 2 are integers and 1's a string, for example, and you want to change the order of the first 2 parameters. I can take this little tool and say, okay, for this method declaration site and for all of the sites that call the method, reorder those. Now, if I just did that at the method site, it would still compile because the first 2 are integers, and so it's just going to switch it around at the method, but it's all of the call sites still have the same order. With refactoring, it'll actually look at all the call sites, do the deep analysis to figure out who's calling this method, and change the parameters that they pass into that method. So that's just one example of a kind of refactoring feature, but it's basically a way to change your code so that it's more readable and just cleaner, better encapsulated, and things like that.
Okay.
So it's really great. Yeah.
It's cool. It's yeah. There's stuff here that makes it easy for the architect to build stuff and then let it down the track, and that people aren't going to mess it up as they're working on it.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
make my life easier if I ever got back into coding, which I won't. But yeah.
You will.
I'll wait for the next one.
The next version of VB is going to
yeah.
be so easy that you're just going to want to get back into it.
Cool.
Do you have any other questions for the VB team?
No, this is looking cool, and I need to get over to PDC. That's what I need to do. The tickets are all sold out, so roll a ticket, please.
Well, PDC is still for sale. It's the Tech Ed.
Oh, Tech Ed, yeah. Get me one of those as well, yeah.
You're coming to PDC too, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be at PDC, and I'm really excited what I'll be talking about there. But
secret stuff?
This stuff is
secret
awesome.
Stuff that we don't know about
It's secret today. Secret today.
Damn.
But by PDC, hopefully we'll be able to talk about it.
Very cool.
So.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the VB team is still kicking.
Yeah, oh yeah, we're
great
really
stuff.
kicking. Yeah.
Thank you very much for spending some time.
Yeah. Thanks.